14-year-old school shooting suspect. He's going to be making his first court appearance this morning at 8:30. We're going to go in there live when he does. Our top story this morning is that case. The young boy accused of opening fire at his high school, scheduled to appear in court in about a half an hour from now. And his father has also been arrested and charged in connection to the shootings. Court TV's Cody Thomas traveled to the Winder, Georgia high school and filed this report.
Good morning, Julie. Huge news in the investigation into the Appalachia High School shooting. Colin Gray, the father of the suspected 14-year-old shooter, has now been arrested and charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder and 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Officials also report that AR-style weapon that Colt Gray used in the shooting was purchased as a holiday gift. Barrow County Public Schools have been closed since the tragic school shooting took place on Wednesday here at Appalachia High School. Among those killed in the shooting were 2 students and 2 teachers. 9 others were injured and taken to the hospital, but are expected to be okay. The accused shooter, 14-year-old Colt Gray, has since been booked into the Gainesville Regional Youth Detention Center. Today on the Appalachia campus, flags are flying at half-mast, and dozens of people living in this community showed up to pay their respects, including a mother whose son was just 2 classrooms down from where the shooting occurred.
I didn't believe it at first. I didn't register. I had to reread the message that was sent to me, and I rushed as fast as I could to get over here. Parked at the street and ran all the way here until I finally heard from Jaden, and I knew he was okay, fortunately.
Tanya's son, Jaden, also described what he experienced inside those halls once the shots rang out. What was that like?
It was pretty scary. I know I was 2 classes away from where it happened. It was in the same hallway as me because the girl in my class had gone to the restroom. She had come back. She had opened the door. I was about to get up to go to the restroom. Right before I went is when it happened. It was like 10 shots, about a 3-second or 4-second pause, and then like 7 more. Like the sound like it hits.
Yeah.
You can't just hear it. You can feel it too.
Now, it's been reported that police interviewed Colt Gray in May of 2023 after receiving a tip about school shooting threats that were made at that time. Reports say Gray told police he'd never make those sorts of threats, even in a joking manner. And Julie, along with those murder and involuntary manslaughter charges, Colin Gray also faces 8 counts of cruelty to children. That's the latest here from Winder, Georgia. Julie, we'll send it back to you.
Our thanks to Cody Thomas for filing that report. We'll be hearing more in just a short time. In the meantime, let's discuss what we do know from what was announced last night by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. I want to welcome in my guests now. I have standing by former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney David Bruno. I have with me retired NYPD detective and Professor Mike Alcazar and trial attorney Kelly Hyman. David Bruno, you are my prosecutor on this panel. I want to start with you here. Is so many people are asking, why just 2 murder charges? They announced last night there are 4 involuntary manslaughter charges filed against Dad and 2 felony murder, or I'm sorry, malice murder is what they say in Georgia, second-degree murder. Any thoughts on why at this point, please, David?
No, it would make no sense. I mean, each victim deserves their individual charge. I mean, we're talking about victims' rights everywhere. And not only do the victims' families have the right, but prosecutors should do the right thing. So it may be just a mistake, honestly, because the fact is, not only is it reported that there was an allegation of that threat prior, there's a recording. Julie, I've heard it. I've heard the recording of the father and the son talking to sheriff's officers about that threat. And the father was saying how he's taking the son out. He shot his first deer last year. He's trying to teach him. There was interesting conversation in that last one. And to your point on your opening statement, there should be no reason why every parent is not on notice right now to lock up their weapons, especially when there are threats, and there were here. There's no reason that this individual had an AK at his possession.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, David. I agree with everything you said. And I'm glad to hear you say you think it was a mistake, because I was saying to friends and colleagues in late conversations last night that, look, if there are 4 dead victims in this incident, we've got 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. I don't understand why the murder counts aren't matching here. And so maybe, like you said, sometimes, you know, as a prosecutor, errors just come in the filings, and they can certainly amend it later. Maybe they'll leave it amended this morning. I've got a clip from the sheriff talking about the dad's arrest. Let's roll that now.
He is charged with the following: 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children. Mr. Gray, these charges stem from Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son, Colt, to possess a weapon.
Knowingly allowing his son when he had indications the son was dangerous, investigated for making online school threats, and then he rewards him. What case does this sound like to you? Kelly Hyman, let me bring you in. The Crumbly case. Eerily similar, isn't it?
Very much so, and we have to remember that that case made history. That was the first time in U.S. history where parents were convicted of a crime, of a fact that's very similar, where a child went into a school and killed. So it's definitely going to be key in this case. 2 things that we have to look at. One, was the gun locked up? Right? Did they make sure it was locked up? And what did the parents know? Did they have knowledge that he was going to do it? And potentially, if they find both, then they could find him guilty.
I mean, Dad's in huge trouble here, Kelly, absolutely. I want to play a clip from one of the students at Appalachia School. I mean, when we think about what these children and these adults working at the school went through, it is horrific. And let's put ourselves into his shoes as you hear him speaking. Let's watch.
I heard about it because all my friends started texting me. My best friend Kaylee that goes here texted me. Then my cousin, his girlfriend goes here. She's the one that was involved. And I started texting her. I got a word from her this morning that she's okay. And I just said, thank goodness you're okay. And I said, I know Coach A and I know the teacher, another teacher. And it really hit when I found out. And I told my mom, and she said, it's not real. And I said, yes, it is. I'm getting word. Everybody's texting me and telling me it is. When I told her it hit, and she could tell by my face, and I just bawled crying.
Oh, I'm sure these poor children are going to keep crying and reliving that trauma. Detective Alcazar, you've seen so much throughout your years of service. I want to talk to you about this. Hearing these kids really gets me thinking about how many people, when you hear the accounts, really think about what it's like. I mean, the loudness of the gunshots. I mean, it is deafening. You know how it is if you go to the gun range, your ears may ring a little bit after just practicing shooting. Talk to us a little bit, please, about the trauma that these individuals have been inflicted with.
Yeah, it's tragic that students go through this, young people go through this. I'd like to say that they shouldn't have to worry about it, but in this current atmosphere, it's the sad reality, and they're definitely going to need some kind of help, psychological help, to debrief them of what they experience. Good job on the school for having security measures to lock down the school, and a pretty quick response from law enforcement. But sadly, this is all reactionary. I think we have to be more proactive to prevent active shooters like this.
Right, Detective. And please, if you have any ideas, we would love to hear them in terms of how we can go on the offensive. I was thinking about that last night. Everybody is sick and tired of this, and it is beyond time that we come up with some viable solutions. Your thoughts on what more we can be doing as a country?
Yeah, we have to be more proactive, right? This event and before that was serious enough that the FBI notified local police. Local police investigated it, but they then found out the Discord account was disabled. But there's ways to track that. There's electronic data. There's metadata, right? We can find out the IP address. I hate to Monday morning quarterback, and I feel like I do that a lot in the show, but I feel like they could have done more to find out who made this, these postings on Discord, and then they could have possibly found out it was from Colt, right? And then they could have investigated to see if they had weapons. Did the young man have access to weapons? And it's a failure on the parents, right? Because yes, you're a weapon owner, it's your right, but you should have possession and control of that weapon at all time. And the father did not. It's a failure in social services, right? This kid definitely needed help. And he didn't get the help. The required grandparents were talking about this. So again, we have to be more proactive. It's a failure on the parents, an investigation by the police and social services.
Definitely. Great points, Professor and Detective. Thank you for that. I have a clip from the sheriff when he was asked just how everyone is feeling in the community. Here's his answer.
What we're facing, heartbreak. We're heartbroken. A young person brought a gun into a school, committed an evil act, and he took lives, and he injured many other people, not only physically, but mentally.
And the sheriff was happy to report that the 9 victims who are recovering right now are expected to make a full recovery. He said that some of them are already out of the hospital. Thank goodness for that. Everyone who's still hospitalized is progressing very well. David Bruno, let me go back to you. In terms of the proactive approaches that can be taken, legally, sometimes I think we're living in this day and age where everybody is so afraid of a civil lawsuit and so afraid of offending someone. And we think about it, our children's safety is being sacrificed here. In the Crumbly case, I mean, they wouldn't search his bag. Well, we didn't have probable cause to search it. Search the bag. Open up the bag. What's the worst that can happen? You save all these lives. David, legally, do you think everybody's too afraid of having a civil suit brought against them, that we're not searching enough and being proactive enough in our schools?
I hope not. I mean, how many more examples do we need that there needs to be alternative measures taken? There's another wrinkle to this story, Julie, and that was after that FBI tip and after that investigation, there were emails that went to the schools in the surrounding areas notifying them to be on the alert for this particular subject and that this subject would be monitored. After that, this family did move to this school district. And I wonder, I haven't heard anything on this yet, but was that communicated to the new school district? If it was such a problem that the FBI had a tip and there was communications in the school district, did it get communicated? That would be one point at the very least of proactive policing that the receiving school district would be on notice.
Yes, David, thank you for that. That kid started at the Appalachian High School 2 weeks ago. So he's transferring in 2 weeks ago. Apparently, Dad said, his son was having some problems at his middle school. Boo-hoo, parents divorced. Mom moved with the 2 younger children. Okay, what family doesn't have some problems? This is America. Kelly Hyman, your thoughts here on the child moving schools and how the districts perhaps could better communicate with each other if they know of a problem child at one school and know where he's headed next.
Communication is key because our children are our future and we need to do what we can to protect them and make sure that they're safe. I mean, kids go to school to learn. They shouldn't have to worry about, am I going to be harmed this day? Is someone going to harm me? And we need to protect the children, and there needs to be measures. So at the schools, there needs to be some type of communication, like you pointed out, to make sure that people are aware that my recollection of schools, you would have, when I went to high school, you'd have like a file on you, right? And they had it in this like little index thing, and they pulled it out by your name and stuff like that. You would think if there was some kind of file that school would transfer it to the other school, or maybe it's online now with modern technology, with technology,
send it quickly.
And send
Kelly.
it, some kind of thing like that. But there needs to be some kind of communication because we can't have our children being harmed in schools anymore. Enough is enough.
It is, and I have to just applaud this 2 school resource officers. The good guys with the guns were able to prevent God knows how many more deaths when one of them confronted him head on and was able to stop him in his tracks. And so fortunately, more people weren't killed or injured, but our hearts go out to all of the victims' families, to all of the recovering victims. We are certainly going to continue monitoring all of those developments with their health. And want to tell you that legally we're monitoring the developments with the 2 people that the state is going to hold accountable here. Colt Gray, the 14-year-old, he's expected to be in court at 8:30. He's being tried as an adult. This is a live look at the courtroom where he's going to be brought in any moment. We're expecting this to happen via Zoom, I'm being told. So we're going to be monitoring things there. And we know Dad is locked up too with the arrest late last night. We're going to follow his court hearing as well. Coming up after this break, here on Opening Statements.
Making a mistake. No mistake. It's 2 mistakes.
We're gearing up for Mama Donna Adelson's trial in just a couple weeks. And Court TV has obtained a revealing jailhouse call between Mom and her boy, Charlie. The call came in the day after he was convicted on murder charges. Wait till you hear it. And the man who we saw in this viral video leaping over the judge's bench, He suddenly pleads to everything else in the information, except for that attempted murder charge. Let's talk about what this is all about. Coming up.
Go ahead. Hit me. Bam.
Two celebrities reveal their turbulent relationship to the world.
He was just Hollywood's mega hunk.
The man who beat me up for 5 years.
The general public sees this, and all they see is wife beater. Two completely different versions of what was happening. That means one thing: somebody's lying.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rollins. New season premieres Sunday night, 8/7 Central.
Only on Court TV.
When did they issue a warrant?
So what happened is we have to take you to our warrant room for that information to get entered, and then after that gets entered, before we can take you to the jail, to the local jail.
Okay, because I didn't know there was a warrant. How would I know that?
That's why they're telling you, Donna. Now for what's trending in true crime. Mama Donna Adelson returns to court this morning. She's got a motions hearing at 9 a.m. and we know that she's accused in a murder-for-hire plot that led to the death of her former son-in-law, Danny Markell. Her trial's going to kick off on September 17th, so we're getting closer and closer to that date. And last week, we saw Donna's defense team presenting a motion to the judge to try to keep out of the trial some jail phone calls between her and her son, Charlie, who we know is already convicted in Danny Markell's death. Now, one of the calls that happened the day after Charlie's conviction and days before Donna was arrested at the airport while trying to board that one-way flight to Vietnam with her husband, Harvey. In the call, you can hear Donna and Charlie talking, but then Donna realizes that the call drops out, but it never disconnects, so she still keeps talking as it's being recorded. You can hear her, you can hear her husband, Harvey, and two friends as well. Let's listen.
How many times do we have plans that I really can't and have to cancel? Wendy needs us for this. Wendy needs us to babysit. So we've been really good nannies, and I guess our job is up. Because now the boys are older, they can go out with friends, they can do things on their own. So she doesn't need grandma and grandpa. Okay, pretty hurtful. I have one son that I don't speak with. I have one son who's close to being dead. And my daughter, whom I love, is doing this. I don't get it. I don't get it. I said to Harvey, I swear to God, our family was cursed, absolutely cursed, and I don't know how to take care of it anymore. So.
Now, the judge says he'll need to review the calls before he can make a ruling on their admissibility. So this morning, we're asking how do you not know you're being recorded? Let's bring in our very special guest, journalist Joel Waldman. He's also the host of the Surviving the Survivor podcast. He's also an author. Check out his new book. Joel, good morning to you. I know you've listened to all these calls. We want to hear your thoughts, please.
Well, look, these words are going to come back and haunt her in the trial. There's no doubt about it. This week, Judge Stephen Everett, who's a fantastic judge, has quietly been ruling. And as far as I know, yesterday he said that these calls will now be admissible. There was also a motion by the defense to really just dismiss the case based on the amount of time it took for this indictment to take place. But again, Judge Everett ruling in favor of the state. So this appears like it is going full steam ahead. Like you said, jury selection begins a week from Tuesday. And again, these calls are just damning from Donna Adelson. We had a lawyer on yesterday who she herself says she just cannot believe how many times she has a criminal defendant who could probably get off and then says something on a jailhouse call that implicates them.
Oh, yeah. And Joel, I mean, they get the warning. As soon as the call begins, they get the warning that they're being recorded, and yet they never cease to amaze us. Because they think that no one will listen, but there are people in the prosecutor's office who spend hours upon hours listening to jail calls, and you get some really, really good stuff. You're right, they're damaging. I have a clip I want to play for you now, Joel. This is the portion of the call where Donna is talking about the places she could go where there wouldn't be an extradition treaty with the United States. Let's listen.
The thing I don't understand how my daughter could help me with it. We've been looking it up over and over. If things change, if there is extradition from Vietnam, because we've looked at all the places. I mean, I could go to Korea and China, but there's no extradition, but we're looking for places where there's no extradition. Maybe she knows about. Maybe she can look up the extradition issue before we waste our time.
Is she going to tell on you that my parents are thinking of leaving the country? My lawyer told us to do that. Okay, but if you mention it to Wendy, is Wendy going to tell?
You tell her beforehand. I need to tell you something as an attorney who doesn't talk and has nothing to do with the case. It just has to do with Mom and I and some decisions that we have to make. Yeah, I know you want to bring her up and show her where everything is. Because it's a plane crash, no one's going to know where anything is or who belongs to what. So I would like her to come up here so she could see it. I don't think that's asking too much.
Oh, Joel Waldman, they are worried about Wendy, aren't they? What do you think?
For sure. There's a lot of infighting, obviously, in the family right now. Charlie and Donna, none too happy with Wendy Adelson, who reportedly has moved with her boyfriend to Austin, Texas. But again, it's interesting. Dan Rashbaum, who's going to be the lead attorney for Donna, who is also the lead attorney, interestingly, for Charlie Adelson. He's been trying his best to get this evidence excluded from the trial. He said there's been no new evidence since 2016, but we've got these jailhouse calls that came in. He's got a really tough road to hoe. These calls are going to come in, and there's more information. There's WhatsApp messages with Donna frantically trying to get in touch with a place called Indochina Sun Travel in Vietnam, which is where she tried to run to try to get a villa there secured. You could hear the panic in the WhatsApp messages. They come, these WhatsApp messages, right after Charlie's conviction in the week before Donna is arrested.
Oh, my. This is bad. And we know that the prosecution is going to get that instruction. The flight is consciousness of guilt instruction. So I would imagine that some of this is going to come in. I can't see the judge excluding all of it. Maybe he'll kind of split the baby and allow some in and some to stay out. Joel, I know you've been poring over the witness lists and who may be called. What's jumping out at you as you're getting ready to watch this case begin?
It's interesting. We had this conversation last night on my show, Surviving the Survivor, and the consensus was the most interesting witness is going to be Donna Adelson. She's going to have to try to defend herself, and it's very likely she's not going to be able to do that in light of some of these calls and some of the new evidence you were playing. But there's another person who most people have not heard of. Her name is Sarah Youssef, and she is an old lawyer friend of Wendy Adelson, was even said to be in her wedding party. They go back a long way. And for some reason, Sarah Youssef in recent weeks, days, months, has reached out to the Markel attorney. We don't know exactly about what or, what with or what kind of evidence, but there's reportedly some evidence she has that actually could potentially implicate Wendy in all of this. So that has people's ears really perked up. Obviously, Donna is next, but this is certainly something that's captured the attention of the people who've been following this trial for, this case for almost a decade.
Oh, Joe, you're absolutely right. Speaking of Wendy, we know one of the biggest questions is whether Wendy's ever going to be charged here. And I remember some time ago, and this is quite some time, perhaps either right before Charlie's trial or right after, I remember joining you on your show, Surviving the Survivor, and you were sharing some insight from some source reporting that you've been doing, and you had sources telling you that she was being surveilled, wasn't she, for a while in Florida?
Yeah, that's the word, that she's actually being surveilled right now, that she's being watched because obviously her mother, it appears, tried to flee to Vietnam via Dubai on a one-way ticket with Harvey. And by the way, there's also some interesting new messages where Harvey is now messaging one of Charlie Adelson's friends. And I have to say, my mother, who co-hosts the show, Carm, who you know, from day one has been saying that Harvey's complicit in this too. I know I'm going off on a little tangent, but this is interesting. So Harvey is now texting one of Charlie's friends who helped Charlie get a place in Vietnam, trying to get information on about whether Donna and Harvey could get to Vietnam and use Charlie's villa. This is obviously before the arrest and after Charlie's conviction. So that's another interesting development that in a way could bring Harvey into all this too.
Oh, wow, Joel. You know I love your mom, Carm. She's brilliant, and I think she's right. You know, I've thought all along, since the testimony from Catherine McBanawa came in about that money drop, where we know both the Adelson parents were there bringing that freshly laundered, literally laundered money, as Katie McBanawa told us, to Charlie Adelson for this payoff. And so your mom raises a great point. You know, if investigators can couple that with this information you just provided us, perhaps we'll see charges for 2 more Adelsons. We've got to leave it there now for time's sake, but check out our friend Joel Waldman's show, Surviving the Survivor, if you haven't already. And Joel, we'll look forward to talking with you more as the weeks progress. Thanks for everything this morning. We're going to hit a break. When we come back here on Opening Statements, we're talking about the 14-year-old high school shooting suspect in Winder, Georgia, who made his first his first court appearance at any moment. This is a live look at the courtroom as we're going to our break. And if you saw last night, he's going to be with another defendant, his dad. His dad has been charged as well. We're going to discuss this live when we come back. Let's get right to some breaking news happening in Georgia. We're seeing for the first time in a criminal courtroom that 14-year-old high school shooting suspect. I want to show you the pictures of him and his father after they were placed under arrest. So these are their mugshots. And now they're both going to be progressing through the criminal justice system. Now, investigators say that Dad gave his kid a rifle as a present over the holidays after he was on notice by the FBI and by the Sheriff's Department that his child was under investigation for making school shooting threats. Let's go inside the courtroom together now and watch the son's court appearance.
Thank you, and please be seated. And good morning, everyone. My name is Curry Mingledorf. I'm assigned to preside over this morning's proceedings. We're here for a limited purpose this morning. I do want to note for everyone's benefit that there is, as everyone certainly is aware, considerable interest in what has occurred in our community in the last several days. For that reason, the court has seen fit under Rule 22 of the Uniform Superior Court rules to allow media outlets to record some of these proceedings. However, under those rules, the court has set in place certain limitations, and I just want everyone to know that the media has been informed of that, and I'm confident that they will comply with that. But otherwise, there is to be no filming or recording by any members of the public or any other individual other than those authorized specifically by the court in its signed ruling. Are we ready, counsel, to begin and bring the defendant in?
State's ready, Your Honor.
All right.
Defense is ready.
All right. All right, good morning, sir. Are you Mr. Colt Gray?
Yes, sir.
My name's Curry Mingledorf. I'm assigned to preside over this morning's proceedings. Mr. Gray, I do need to inquire as to whether you're able to read and write the English language.
Yes, sir.
All right. I also want to inform you, I want to ask you, do you understand that you have the right to be represented by an attorney in these proceedings?
Yes, sir.
And you are, in fact, represented today, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Zane Harmon, you're here on behalf of this defendant, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and you understand that you have the right to be continuously represented throughout this proceeding, and if you cannot afford to hire counsel, then this court is obligated under the Constitution to provide counsel for you without cost to you. All right, I am going to inform you of a few other matters, and I'm not going to ask you anything, just inform you. So one is, I want to make sure that you are aware that you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to say anything at all. And it's important to understand that because anything you might say could be used against you at further proceedings associated with your case. I want to inform you of the charges that you currently face. In essence, you are charged with 4 counts of felony murder, as outlined in the state warrants that have been issued against you. I want to make you aware that the maximum penalty for felony murder, so for each count, the maximum penalty is that you could be punishable by death, by imprisonment for life, without parole, or by imprisonment for life, with the possibility of parole. If you have any questions about these charges, then I would urge you to discuss those with your attorney. I would invite you, Mr. Harmon, to inform the court as to whether there's a request for bond at this time.
At this time, Your Honor, there is not a request for bond. We will file the appropriate motions if that becomes necessary.
All right. An indictment by the grand jury for most felony offenses or accusations, well, you have the right to receive an indictment for these offenses. And I assume Mr. Brad Smith is here on behalf of the DA's office, or he is our district attorney, and he's accompanied by Ms. Patricia Brooks, who is his chief assistant. A preliminary hearing, you'll have the right also to a preliminary hearing, unless you make a bond, which of course at this point there's no bond being requested, or unless you waive such a hearing. You have the right to a speedy and public trial by a judge or jury. You have the right to confront and cross-examine all witnesses. You have the right to call witnesses on your own behalf and testify in your own defense if you so choose. As you sit here in this courtroom today, under the law, you are presumed innocent. Your refusal to testify at any point in any proceeding will not be used against you in determining whether you are guilty or not guilty. Counsel, let me just inquire as to whether there are any other items that the court should address before we conclude this preliminary hearing.
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
Well, I do have one piece of information to convey to the court. There was a development yesterday afternoon that makes it necessary for our office to have alternate counsel appointed, and arrangements have already been made in that regard. I've already explained that to Mr. Gray, and alternate counsel will be appointed by the end of the day today.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Donna C. Graves. All right, then with that, this hearing is concluded, and you may escort this defendant out. All right, with that, I understand that we have another first appearance hearing, and I think that we're going to have a little bit of a recess before we conduct that, unless everyone's ready to proceed with that. I think that I told the media outlet that I would recess briefly to allow them to kind of reconfigure what they're doing, and so we'll be in recess for a short time until I'm informed that everyone's ready. All right? Thank you.
Even though he didn't say, it seems that he's talking about Dad's court appearance that's been scheduled for 9:30. So that shooting suspect's father placed under arrest last night. So now we've got co-defendants in this one. The young man that authorities are saying carried out the shooting, and his father, who they're saying enabled the shooting. There they are. There are their mugshots. Unfortunately, we didn't get a very good look at the son's face, as that long hair was covering his face and the camera was positioned at kind of a side angle. But there's his mug. You see what he looks like straight on. And there's Dad's mugshot taken last night. Just a heinous, despicable series of crimes carried out at that high school in Winder, Georgia. And the courtroom, I can see a view on the monitor I'm looking at. The courtroom where these first appearances are happening, there it is. It's packed. packed. Look at all those people. And some people got up, I believe, when the judge said they're going to have a recess until 9:30 when Dad's going to be brought in. But look at all of those people wanting to see justice for those 4 beautiful people killed and those 9 beautiful people injured. Thank goodness the 9 injured who survived are going to make full recoveries, according to the sheriff. There are the pictures of the victims. Let's remember them as we head to this break, and we're going to continue our coverage this morning as we get ready for Dad's appearance. But those 2 teachers and those 2 students who lost their lives in such a brutal way, let's not forget them and their families in the coming days and years.
Go ahead. Hit me. Bam.
2 celebrities reveal their turbulent relationship to the world.
He was just Hollywood's mega hunk.
The man who beat me up for 5 years.
The general public sees this, and all they see is wife beater. 2 completely different versions of what was happening. That means one thing: somebody's lying.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rollins. New season premieres Sunday night, 8/7 Central.
Only on Court TV.
We continue following that breaking news in Georgia as the school shooting suspect from Appalachia High School, Colt Gray, 14 years old, just made his initial court appearance. And he's got a co-defendant. His dad is going to be coming up next at 9:30. So we got a packed courtroom. That's about as good a look as we got as this kid's face. But we do have his mugshot and his dad's mugshot as they are both criminally charged. He's being tried as an adult as per the law in Georgia. There's a look at those 2 side by side. Our hearts go out to all of these victims and their family members. His first appearance. Let's bring in our guests, see what they think about it. Kelly Hyman in the studio, Mike Alcazar and David Bruno standing by remotely. Kelly, your thoughts, first time seeing this shooting suspect?
It's such a tragedy. We cannot forget the victims, as you showed in the photo of the teachers and the children and what they've gone through. And thank God that the children that they're harmed are going to be a full recovery of the children that you were talking about. I found it very interesting the fact that someone stood up and was saying that there's some kind of conflict of interest. So what that means is when an attorney represents a client, they need to advocate for their client and zealously advocate for the client, but they can't have any type of conflict. So it looks like the attorney, from what I can understand, who's making the first appearance for the defendant, there's going to be someone else that's going to take that person's place and switch over the case because there's some alleged conflict of interest, which we don't know exactly what that is.
Right, right. Let's just say, for example, let's say it's the public defender's office, then they wouldn't be able to take both of them. You might have the other case referred to maybe an office of conflict counsel or a private attorney taking it in, Kelly. So we'll see who Dad ultimately gets. 9:30 is his time. This young boy, 14, brought in all shackled, the jumpsuit. Mike Alcazar, what did you think as you were looking at him?
Yeah, I was kind of disturbed, right? Because we're talking about being proactive, and I hate to say it. I hate to say that we're giving this perpetrator attention. He's an active shooter that was arrested. From what we've heard so far, he's been influenced by active shooters. And I hate to think that he might spawn other copycats because of the attention he's getting. Some individuals out there are watching right now. Most are normal, but some are craving attention. And any kind of attention, negative attention, is what they look for. And I hope, again, it doesn't spawn anybody else from doing something similar. That's, I think, the negative of covering a crime like this.
Yeah, it seems like there have been a lot of copycatting. We hear that they research other criminal defendants who've done the same thing if they survive the massacre. David Bruno, we're just about out of time, but I want you to take us home, please. Your final thoughts on this appearance we just saw of that young boy.
Yeah, sure. One of my thoughts is this waiver happened so quickly. I mean, we're days away from the shooting, and he's being brought into adult court in front of the cameras for his first appearance. Now, every state is different, procedures different. I have had the opportunity to prosecute a juvenile on a murder case, and at least in our state, there's a waiver procedure. There's a hearing that has to happen. There are factors that go into the decision. And in this particular state, it happens very, very quickly, days after, and he's now in an adult court. That is a juvenile that we're looking at right now in an adult court that has been waived up and is being treated as an adult.
David, thank you. Thank you, Professor Alcazar. Kelly Hyman, thank you. We're going to hit a break. We're going to continue our coverage in just a moment. I want to